Hey everybody, welcome to Geek Rant. It's Greg here again on the channel with Toby, and today we're going to be talking about episode 10 of the House of the Dragon. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. We're going to be talking about episode 10 of the House of the Dragon, which is the season finale. I did enjoy this episode, but it was not quite what I expected. There was going to be a bit more war I suppose they were preparing for it, weren't they? What was your initial thoughts, Tabby?
Well, I like you, I was hoping we might have a bit of a conflict, but there wasn't any. It was like the last one. The Greens set up
Yeah,
um
that's right.
their situation, and now
Yeah,
we've got the Whites or the
yeah,
Blondes setting
yeah.
up their situation. And
Very much
yeah,
so,
I
isn't it?
it was there was some really nice moments in this
Yeah,
in this.
yeah.
I did feel at times
Hmm.
that these last two episodes have been just about setting up the next season,
Yes,
which
yeah.
was, I feel on reflection, I mean, it's so good. I'm just picking at hairs here,
I
but
know,
it was
I
a
know.
shame that
Yeah,
they felt that this had to be the preamble to the
yeah,
next season, and I felt that there
yeah.
was some exciting things they could have done, but
Yeah, they left us hanging, didn't they? They left us really sort of hanging at the
yeah,
end, and but
yeah,
I think like you said, it's it's not a chore watching this program, is it? You
no,
know,
no.
it is really well acted.
Yeah,
I really thought Rhaenyra really performed excellent in this Emma Darcy, is it?
something like that.
Yeah, I was really impressed with her performance in this episode.
Rhaenyra,
Um, yeah, Rhaenyra, yeah,
isn't
and
it? Rhaenyra, isn't it?
oh,
Rhaenyra,
oh, I
Rhaenyra,
thought it was
Rhaenyra.
Rhaenyra. Oh, I could be wrong.
Rhaenyra.
Rhaenyra, the
I
Queen,
don't know.
basically,
Yes.
the Queen. Yeah, I thought her performance was brilliant, and she had a bit to do, didn't she?
Yeah.
So obviously we saw at the beginning of the episode, and this is the character I cannot pronounce her name. I don't know why. It's a mental block in my mind. But the Queen that wasn't,
Yes.
she's the
Rhaenyres.
Rhaenyra, right?
Yeah. I think something like
Um,
that.
she
It's spelled
turns up at.
it's spelled virtually the same as
I
Rhaenyra,
know it
but
is,
it's
isn't it? I think that's
Rhaenyres.
what's throwing me. I think that's what's getting me in
I
my
think
mind.
something like that. Anyway, that's how I've been saying it. What the hell?
Veneries, yeah,
Doesn't
I
matter, does
know.
it?
Yeah, no, not really. Yeah, she turns up, doesn't she, at Dragonstone, where they're all sort of there waiting for another
Yeah.
baby to be born, isn't it?
Yeah.
And she obviously brings the bad news that the king has died, and she can't tell them why, can she? Because she was imprisoned,
Yeah.
and also that they have crowned Aegon. And this obviously is a crippling bit of a crippling blow to Rhaenyra, and she kind of goes into a labor, doesn't she? She suddenly keels
Yeah.
over. She's in pain. You know,
Yeah. She's. I couldn't decide whether that was the shock of her
yeah,
father's death,
yes.
or the fact that they
Aegon
had
had been
that Aegon had
crowned,
been crowned. I didn't know whether it was the combination, whether it was the father,
and
because
that
she
Alison,
saw her
her
father.
friend, her old
Yeah,
friend, had
yeah.
done this to her. Yeah,
Well, the Aegon, that's obvious.
yeah.
But I think she shouldn't have been shocked that her father
No,
was going to die.
no, no,
I
because of
think
the
they must have
state
all
he
been
was in.
expecting it for a few years now. I mean,
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Since the beginning of the series.
and then I didn't
Yeah.
feel like she should be too shocked
No,
that
no.
Alison has put Aegon on the throne.
Yeah.
It was,
I think also
I
Damon was
kind of,
there, and he was very much, his opinion was they've killed the king,
yeah,
that they've done this. How did he die? And she couldn't say. And I think that's where you see a real interesting split between the two of them, don't you? Rhaenyra and
yeah,
Damon, in how they approach, how they're going to deal with this scenario. He's
Yeah,
pretty much, I'm going to kill the bastards,
yeah.
know.
Go all
And she's
guns.
actually, I've got to think wider as a queen and
Mm,
protect the nation as well. I mustn't do
mm,
something that's going to end up burning the whole place
mm.
down, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
Damon does some creepy things in this show. I
yeah,
think
yeah,
from that moment you get an instinct that he's going to be maybe more of a hindrance at times
yes, yeah, yeah.
than an asset.
Or
And
maybe push her down a route she doesn't want to go down. Do you know what I mean? It was
well,
really,
I think we find someone else does that in the end, don't we?
yes, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah. But
someone
I
who looks
mean, it
very much
was,
like him, but
yeah, the bit obviously with the pregnant and the baby being stillborn, and was
yeah,
quite a graphic and sad affair, wasn't it? I was watching it with Joe, and it
yeah.
was, we both felt, that was, and I wondered, did they need to show that? Did they need to be quite so graphic with it? They could have been a bit more subtle in that approach.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that they made it visceral for a couple
yeah,
of reasons.
right.
I think they're laying bare the kind of the dead child of a nation of a
Yeah,
history. It's
yeah,
a kind of metaphor for the state
yeah,
of affairs.
yeah,
That she's experiencing the work that their land is going through.
yeah,
And the fact that there's poison always. There's poison.
yeah,
Things die, and that's just how it's going to be from now on. From
yeah,
that stillbirth, it's going to be death. Lots of death. It's like the beginning of it.
yeah,
With that
yeah.
birth becomes this new stage of
She could,
sacrifice and
she could
death
have, she could
that
have
there's
been
going to be
very,
a sweep across the land. They've used
yeah,
these sorts of metaphors throughout the show. And it beds it in your viewing as you watch it. From that
yeah,
moment on, you go into the show with this
mm,
depressive
yeah,
thing, most horrible thing to see a child stillborn like that, and
yeah,
you
horrible.
know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not that it was real, but they made it look pretty real, didn't they? And
And
it
let's not,
was
yeah, and let's not forget it was Damon's child,
Damon's. That's right. Well, he was pretty
and
devastated, wasn't he?
is
Mm,
he the poison? You
mm.
know,
Well,
that
they
there's
have got other children, haven't they? They have got
they
two other
do,
children.
they
So,
do,
you
but
know,
yeah, I think there's a
I
sort
know what
of
you're saying. I know what you're saying,
yeah,
and
there's a
they like to show some metaphors, don't they? They, like you were
yeah,
saying, like in previous episodes, they showed
mm,
the rats, didn't they? Sort of coming in
yeah,
places, showing there is dying and his deterioration.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, that was quite a graphic moment, but um, she comes out of it, doesn't she? They have the funeral. You see her wrapping the baby, and it's kind of stunting um the attack, all Damon's preparations. She doesn't
mm,
want to do anything until they've had the funeral, and you see that. But then at that same time, Eric, Sir Eric turns
yeah.
up, and I thought it was a really nice touch that he had the crown. And I
Yeah,
thought,
Viserys
actually,
crown,
that's a
wasn't it?
really nice little crown, isn't it?
Mm.
When you looked at it, because they showed it really close and really sort of up, and I thought,
Yeah.
oh, that's a really nice crown they've got there, nice prop,
Yeah.
that
Nice
they put
prop.
into
Yeah.
this. And then
You were
obviously
rubbing
Dame,
your thighs with that one, weren't you? Oh, I like
yeah,
the look of that
bit
one.
like Vic Reeves, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's
yeah,
certainly nicer than the other one, the Conqueror's
yes,
crown.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely,
Mm.
and obviously they put it on Rhaenyra, don't they? And she's then,
Yeah.
you know, um, and I think at that point she was probably thinking, oh, are people going to follow me? Am I going to be able to, just had lost lost my child?
Mm.
But they do, there's a good group of them that want to honor her
Yeah.
and see her
Yeah.
as the queen. So I thought that was a
Mm.
nice touch,
Yeah.
and the bit where she's led into that very dark room where they had that the table, that big table with the map. I
Yeah.
love it that they light it underneath and you can see
The
all the sort of,
candles. Was it candles?
yeah, the light
Yeah.
coming through it.
Mm.
Really nice idea, really nice touch that.
And when they put things on it, it clonks because it's solid metal.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like that.
It's they got
Very kind
some,
of
yeah,
visceral sound
yeah.
effects going on. Very nice.
But she carried off a very regal, suddenly a very regal performance, didn't
She
she?
did.
She was very good as a commanding sort of, although she was slightly, it's a little bit of, trying to work out what to do.
Uncertainty.
Yeah, she still held that kind of good aura, didn't she? And I was really pleased. I was we really liked the original, the younger version,
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
we? And we
yeah.
thought she had
Billy
given a
Alcock.
great performance, and they found another really good performer for her character. And
Yeah, they
I'm
have.
just being I've been very pleased with what they've done with the casting and who they've had. It's been really engaging. They've been really creating these characters,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
well.
yeah. It is
Yeah.
very good. It's going to win all sorts of awards this year.
I hope so. I
It
hope
will.
so.
There's no
Old Paddy
competition.
Constantine has got to get something as well, hasn't he? Because of his
Yes.
performance, that was amazing.
Yeah.
So
And that's
yeah,
been another
it's
problem for these last two episodes. He hasn't been in the
yeah.
episode, so
Well, this is
I
it, isn't
think
it?
that
Yeah,
is that. I said that. We said that last time. I
yeah,
think,
yeah.
and they can't use tropes to bring him back in because
No,
I was thinking, it'd be nice to see the young Rhaenyra again.
yeah.
Maybe
In a
flashbacks, but they don't
flashback.
really. They
Hmm.
don't have they done that very much so far. I think they'd be
The only
setting
time they've ever
new
had any
rules.
flashback scenarios is when they were looking through the eyes of the one-eyed raven, and that's more like it's a actual going back in time, isn't it, and
Yeah,
seeing
yeah.
what was happening at that
Yeah, that was
point.
in Game
So
of Thrones, isn't it?
that was in Game of
So
Thrones, wasn't it?
yeah,
That's right.
so
Yes. Yeah.
in
Well,
this
I'm
in this
considering
show,
this is all part of the same,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
which it is. It's part
same
of the
world.
Game of Thrones, isn't it? And then obviously we also see Corlys is
Mm,
actually woken up from his fever,
which is good.
um,
He's a good
and
character.
he's quite repentant at that point, isn't he? Because he's
Yeah.
realised he's been trying to chase the throne too much. He
Mm.
says to Rhaenyra, or whatever her name is,
Rhaenyra, yeah,
he says to her, "You were right. I shouldn't have been chased. I shouldn't have been so ambitious. And look what it did to my brother. He wanted it and got killed.
yeah,
I've got to change my ways, sort of thing." And he comes in to sort of discuss what's to be done, doesn't he, with them,
yeah.
and try to get convinced, are
Pledges.
you going to be on the side,
Mm.
and it's at that point where Rhaenyra actually helps Rhaenyra.
Mm.
She was, in previous episodes, she blamed her for the death of her son,
Yeah,
which is kind of true. Even though he's not dead, he's still gone, isn't he?
mm.
But she's come round. She's seen her now and her performance of trying, while all the men around all the men around the table are gearing up for a fight.
Yeah,
She's trying to sort of take a different approach and be a bit more, and I think she sees that, doesn't she? And
yeah,
suddenly she's holding it together while everyone
yeah.
around that table's trying to destroy the realm.
Rhaenyra has been sort of, you occasionally catch her in the background in the
Yeah,
shadows, and
yeah,
she's watching on, seeing how Rhaenyra does the job,
yeah,
whether she's,
yeah,
and it convinces her. And I think
yes,
that they can both see that, you know, there's going to be a lot of bloodshed ahead, and
yeah, yeah,
there's nothing they can keep out of. It's going to affect the whole
yeah.
realm. So
Oh, it will. It
yeah,
will. I mean, and you see a bit of a clash, don't you, between Damon and Rhaenyra, where they have a disagreement over what to be done. And he grabs her
yeah,
by the throat, doesn't he? And sort of like
viciously, she's
really
choking.
chokes her.
Yeah, that was it.
And
That was interesting. That for
I
me is a foreshadow for
yes,
what is going to happen with these two.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So their future is not a happy one. So
I doubt. Yeah, not
yeah,
not when you
this
saw
is
that. They can't
yeah.
sort of agree on things, can they? And also, he doesn't like to be second fiddle, does he? Really?
Well,
He
in the
wants to be.
he's kind of sat back, hasn't he?
He has a bit.
Over
That's
the
true.
last
And
time.
he did put when he got the crown, he did put it on her head,
Yeah,
didn't he? He could have just said, "Right, I'm now the king,"
yeah.
you know.
I think he's his motivations are a little bit unknown. I think he's a bit mysterious, and you
Mm,
never quite
mm,
know what he's going to do. But
yeah,
it's
yeah,
often volatile. in a kind of subtle way. And that's one of the nice things about Damon's character. He has quite a lot to do in this episode, doesn't he? He's in quite a few scenes, and
yes, absolutely.
I thought
And he carries
was
it off well.
Yeah,
He carried it
I
off
thought
well.
it was much better. Yeah,
Even
when he had to sort of be a bit shouty, I thought he did it in a much subtler, quieter voice than he did in the first couple of episodes, where he was trying.
It seemed more threatening, didn't it?
Yeah, the kind of more he's throwing his voice in it, using it in a much more sort of professional way, if you like, rather than just kind of being brash with it. So I was impressed.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he did a good performance, another good performance. He's got better, isn't he, in the role?
Yeah,
got better in the role. And as they've adapted the character and brought it round from, like you say, being a shouty head of the guard to a more sinister, underhand, character. That was good. It was good. And then they come to this decision: they've got to go and get some support from other houses, Baratheons, and
we saw this with the Hightowers as well, didn't we? When they were they were doing it, as this is happening, you can suppose that the Hightowers in the other episode,
they're going to be doing stuff
beforehand, doing the same thing. So they're going to be vying for which houses are going to fight with them.
Yes. Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. And well, they send off, the sons step up and say, look, we should go. Don't send the ravens. The dragons can get there quicker. Send us kids, and we'll go and do it. And now, because they're starting to become older, they make the decision to go and fly over and meet the different houses. And the second son,
Mum
Luke,
says yes.
The mum says yes. She gives them some advice, doesn't she? She sort of says, you're going as a messenger, not as warriors. So you mustn't fight. You mustn't, take that into your own hands. You've got to go as a messenger.
Lucerys, who took out Prince Aemon's eye. Let's not forget about this. That comes out, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Luke goes and sees the Baratheons and flies down, and that was a nice little image of him flying down to he arrives, and there he sees Vhagar in the background. Aemon's huge, motherfucking huge dragon, isn't it?
Massive.
I mean, it seems to be getting bigger and bigger by the episode. I was shocked at how big it was in this episode. And so obviously that's not a good sign for him, because he really, he fears him, doesn't he? He fears Aemond,
He does. But Aemon's got to the Baratheons before he has, basically.
Yeah.
They've both been sent out as couriers, go and get their aid. And the poor old Lucerys has turned up after Aemon.
Just a bit late, isn't he? Yes. And he obviously gives them the message, but the Baratheon, Boros, Boros,
they're in this hall, aren't they? And it's a grey. So there's another one of these great big rooms where they've got a throne, and and there's subjects all around, guards. There's guards, and then to the left there's Prince Aemon, and he's standing there. And he's already offered something, the hand and a marriage to one of the daughters there. There's like four of them lined up. Boros says, what are you going to offer me, Luke?
Which one of my daughters will you marry? And I'm already betrothed, I'm afraid. So your queen's come a calling and not offering me anything. So I mean, it doesn't go down particularly well, does it? But then
he tries to send him packing, doesn't he?
He tries to send him off.
Yeah.
But that's when Aemond does the usual thing, his usual crazy person thing.
Yeah.
And
he wants the eye, doesn't he? He wants his eye.
The eye. And there's a good bit where he takes his thing off. and you see in his eye he's got some sort of jewel or something inside his eye, isn't he? So it's like a blue sort of jewel,
sapphire, isn't it?
Sapphire. He's he's put it in there, and just to scare him a little bit more, and he sort of stands his ground and says, "No, I'm not going to fight you. I'm a messenger." You know, and luckily the Baratheon supports him, doesn't he? Sort of says, "No, there won't be any bloodshed here."
Yeah, he was sent as an envoy. You know, it's in his hall. You know, who's a Targaryen to, you know, why should a Targaryen be allowed to attack, you know, Valerian in his hall, you know? But it doesn't end there. He gets away. Onto his dragon and up into the air he goes. You know? We know what's coming.
we do. I think the whole time, as soon as they went off, I was like, that's a mistake. To send the boys in the first place. You know, I just had this.
He seemed too young to me. He seemed quite young.
Yeah, he's too nervous. You know, at the beginning of the episode, he was saying, "I don't want to be the Lord of Driftmark. I'm not a sailor. I've got no, you know, that's I can't do it. I don't want to do it." And Rhaenyra had sort of tried to talk him round, hadn't she, a bit? But yeah, he was very nervous as a character, wasn't he? And Aemond just fed off that, didn't he? He knew how to bully him and make him feel weak. And he again mentions the name Strong, doesn't he, in the hall when he's, you know,
immediately when he sees him,
just to give him another dig.
So they're both in the air. Aemond on his giant dragon circles around, and he's scaring Lucerys, you know, rather than actually maybe wanting to kill him.
I think it's all to terrify him.
It gets out of hand.
It does.
Because I don't know the name of their dragons, but
is it Vhagar is Aemond's? I think it's Vhagar.
Yeah,
but I'm not sure about.
Luke's is much smaller, and and he, for some reason, the dragon decides to attack.
I think it was Lucy who had done that. I think he had attacked. You know,
it wasn't his dragon taking over.
I don't know. No, I
you think it was actually an attack? Okay,
I think it was a stupid attack. I think he
that was pretty stupid
done that to try and put them off so he could get away. You know. I mean, but then, I mean, you could see how massive Aemond's dragon was. You know, when
maybe
he first
10
comes
times
over
bigger, almost, wasn't it?
It was flipping huge, wasn't it? And I just thought when he went down into those sort of craggy bits, he should have just sort of.
I thought that as well. Stayed there,
stayed there, or escaped. I mean, it was foolhardy, wasn't it? The whole thing.
The fact that he came out of those caves,
and have an attack at him, that was just crazy. But then when he attacked, I think then Vhagar lost the plot. You know, and Aemond couldn't control him. You know, as soon as he got attacked, that was it. He's going to have him, and. Obviously, we see him coming out and biting him in. It looked like it was like
ripped him in half.
Tiny little toy thing in his mouth, didn't it? It was so bloody massive.
Well, I don't know whether you've ever seen eagles take fish out of rivers. You know, and almost, or you know, that sort of thing. It was so easy. He just came in his big mouth and tore him in half.
You
know, I mean. We've talked a lot about this. It was easily the best scene in the show. We were kind of dying for a bit of action at this point, weren't we? And
we said last week we want some action, we want some war, we want some, you know, and
Rhaenyra's son is killed as a consequence of the attack, and then Daemon hears about it, and then he goes in to tell Rhaenyra, and then she turns to the camera and has that look of conquest on her face. She wants revenge.
She does.
She's going to get revenge, and it just cranks it up a notch or two, doesn't it? And I think it's pretty stupid.
But we've got to wait.
In the first place.
I know. I know. I couldn't believe they were doing that. I mean, considering everything's about line of hereditary, sort of, you know, it seemed a bit crazy to send your two sons off separately for them to get picked off. You know,
I thought when she sent them, she was going to send like a guard with them.
Yeah.
So they had some people with them. But I guess because they're on Dragonback, it's more difficult doing that, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
and you'd think with a dragon you'd be pretty safe, although his dragon was quite small, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But I suppose it was probably just the youngest dragon, wasn't it?
Yeah. He's not that old himself, is he?
No, he was like 14, I think.
Like that,
and also Aemon's used to belong to somebody else, didn't it? So that was Laena, who had, so he had taken that, sort of at a later stage in its life. I mean, that dragon is so big. Are the other, if obviously we're going to have a bit of a war and a fight. Who's going to be? Which other dragon's going to be able to take that big old boy on? He's
I don't
huge.
know, but there was an interesting point at the beginning when Daemon said that there were a number of unclaimed dragons around. He listed off, say, 4, 5, or 6, didn't he? And I thought, oh, that could be some interesting little stories there.
Yeah,
about them kind of getting their dragons, whoever it is that gets them. I thought that would be interesting. So that's kind of like a promise for the next season, isn't it? So we know that they're going to try and claim the dragons. I mean, that was one immediate.
And also, he then went off, and he was in like a cave or something, wasn't he? With a torch, and he was singing some sort of song. And then we saw another dragon. Now, I didn't know whose dragon or what dragon that was. That was another.
Yeah, because I was watching it with Joe, and we both thought it was an unclaimed wild dragon, maybe within the dragon cave.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's going to try and harness that power somehow, get some more of those unclaimed dragons and fly in with a massive,
I don't know. I do think as well, thinking about the next season, that it was important that the Targaryens sided with the Valerians, because otherwise I think it would have been too lopsided. They needed to try and keep the side sort of level, I think.
Yes.
I think that worked out well, as far as the battle ahead goes. But I think because they're going to go to the north, aren't they?
Yes, they're going to go and see the Starks.
The Starks, yes.
Yes, and try.
So I think there's going to be a whole nother storyline there as well. I think maybe
it could be, couldn't there?
They talked about them, and I had a feeling that that might be good food for Thornton's story. I thought that might be quite good.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we didn't get any really. I mean, we saw Otto. Otto does come, doesn't he, to sort of say that Aegon has been crowned, and that she can be the Lord of Dragonstone, and
promises,
certain aspects, promises, but realize that she's not going to be the queen. She's still quite restrained there, isn't she? At that point, she turns up on a dragon, doesn't she? Sort of, which makes
we've seen this scene before. It's the walkway.
Yeah, it's that walkway.
And we've seen a couple of scenes there.
Yes,
with Daemon,
and it was Otto, and it was Otto, and it was Daemon last time facing off, getting the swords out, getting ready to, and her turning up. The first time she did that when she was like 14. She turned up and kind of sorted it all out, didn't she?
And it mirrors that.
It does,
that situation.
Yeah. No, very much. But I did like it that she was wearing her crown and she was looking,
great.
sort of all really good. So really enjoyable. Really enjoyable.
Very, very good episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the end of that season, isn't it? I mean, I'm not sure how long it's going to be before we get another season, but I'm hoping they're working on it now.
I think they are. I think I saw somewhere that they are. So, we're that's good. I mean, I think they're going to try and push for as many seasons as they can do. Yeah, but it's a question of how much source material they've got and how far they can lengthen that out. Really.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think they've done an amazing job. I think this has been. Probably this year, this has been probably the best series that we've had on TV.
I think there's little doubt. I think it's been the best best show we've had in a few years. I'll be honest with you. I think, I don't think there's much that really compares.
No. Quality of the acting has been great. The whole directing, the whole setup, the storylines. It's been really interesting and enthralling, isn't it? It's putting Game of Thrones back on the map, isn't it? Really, because they dipped in the last couple of seasons of Game of Thrones, and this actually, this is as good as Game of Thrones ever was.
I think it's interesting because there's so much world building in the background for this, which has allowed for that political intrigue. And often you hear, I hear a lot of writers and people talking about the fact you don't need to build the history for this sort of thing. But I think you just need to worry about the characters. But the characters themselves really slotted into that historical narrative that we saw played out in this show. And we have seen like a generation or two, played out. And I think that the timeline, the risks they took, they've all paid off. And I think it's been really good.
Yeah. It's been excellent. I totally agree. All right. Well, thanks for watching tonight. We've loved the series, and get out and see it if you haven't seen it. It is brilliant. If you like what we're saying, obviously, please subscribe and like the videos, comment. We'd love to hear your opinion on it. Otherwise, we'll see you again soon.